Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. This is me, Ask Mike, and I have two pals from That Yearbook podcast, Sabrina
Yes.
Schmidt and Jim Jordan. We're coming to you from all over the country today, and we're excited to talk to you about captions.
Yes.
So, without any further ado, Sabrina has a really cool wall behind her. Jim has all his plaques back to the Presswick papers or
It wouldn't feel like a podcast without
No,
an old
no,
Jim
no.
joke. It just
No.
wouldn't feel right. It wouldn't feel the same.
Ben and Jim did all these things back with the Gutenberg. So Sabrina, tell us about what we're going to talk about today.
Please,
Well,
yes.
Yes, what we're talking about today is caption writing. So, and there's a bunch of different reasons, obviously, why caption writing is important. And I think the biggest message that pops into my head when I'm thinking of caption writing is it really goes back to what yearbooks are all about, and it's all about storytelling, right? Everything that we do in yearbook is storytelling, from the actual stories to the photography to the design to your theme, and captions are no different. Captions are really just like many little stories in your book that are helping kind of further the story along of like what's happening on that spread. There's a lot of historical value in your book for having captions. So we're going to talk a lot about a million reasons why captions are so important. They're a little thing, and that's the best part about them, I think. They're short, right? They're little, they're short. There's a formula for it. They're easy, okay? They're easy to get the hang of, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. But they really are valuable in a yearbook, especially for you guys that want to win awards, if you want to get your book critiqued, if you want to get to winning state awards or national awards like a Crown and a Pacemaker. Captions are honestly a big part of that. They are a huge part of our books because there are pictures generally on every page. There are captions generally on every page. So we want to talk to you guys a little bit today about why caption writing is important and how to do it well, so that we can have as many great, fabulous, award-winning books out there that we can possibly have. So we're excited about it. So guys, what are some reasons why y'all think caption writing is so important
Sabrina,
to have in your book?
I have a little caption story I want to tell from this August. I went and visited at a school who shall remain nameless, and I opened up their book. It was beautiful, had a wonderful cover. It had really pretty amazing photography, but there was virtually no captions. You looked at those and you didn't know when it was or who it was and what it was, except for the context of the spread that it was on. And I got to tell you, I was kind of horrified, because when I go to a book and I'm checking out, first of all, what kind of a book is this? I'm always going to read a couple of captions at random and see how meticulous they were about just exactly what you were talking about, that storytelling in every one of those little bitty captions that really reveal what's going on, the context, the information about every photo. So people out there, the bottom line of all of this, every photo in your book needs a caption, please.
Including
we beg of you.
Your opening pages, if you have photos on your end sheets.
Even the principal with the phone up to his ear.
Yes.
Everything.
All of these should have captions. Like, I know sometimes people think that like dividers and openings and end sheets are like special. They don't have to have them. That is not true. We still need to know who's in these photos, right? And I think, Jim, you might have said this at some point. It stuck with me, which was photos are for today. The writing is for 20 years from now, right? Yeah. Like the photos are like when you get the book, kids are looking at those photos because we hear that all the time. Like nobody cares about the writing. They might not right this second because they might have known what happened in that picture because that picture might have been taken a month ago. 20 years from now, yeah, you're not going to know. You need that. That's what the point of captions is. It's there for historical context so that we know what happened in these pictures and who these people are.
I was going to interrupt and say there are many schools that will tell us we don't write, we just put captions. Well, writing is a caption is writing.
Yes.
And you are telling a story in that caption. You might not write features. And you're not going to get the three of us to agree with that. But you might not write a feature story, but you are writing a caption that is a feature story, and it needs to have the basics at least.
And I have one more thing I want to say. When I was an English teacher, I used to make T-charts all the time. And we could be really blunt and say there are two kinds of books in the world. Ones that win awards and ones that have no chance of winning awards. And the ones that have a good chance of winning awards have captions. And the ones that don't have captions, you're in that other part of the T-chart. So please, I'm going to beg again, captions, captions, captions. You can do it.
You need to lay the groundwork to do a good caption.
Absolutely. Right.
We do talk about on-page real estate of a yearbook. Up to 70% are going to be photos. And so you need to make that verbal connection with the visual photo to let the reader know what was going on then. You know, the who, what, when, where, how of that photo. But the problem with it, it takes some work to get that information.
It's not easy.
No, and it's also a good entry point for a reader on a spread, right? Like they might see a fabulous photo and they might not go read that story that's on the spread right away. But if they read that caption and that caption is interesting and it's giving them some information that they didn't realize, if it's hooking them in, if it's surprising them in some way, if there's a great quote that's in that caption that has some emotion, then they get past that initial couple seconds of looking at a spread, and now their eyes probably be bopping around to different pieces of that spread. Maybe it jumps to a mod. Maybe it does go to that story to get some more information about what's happening. So that caption can be just like a dominant photo is a visual entry point. That caption can be a little bit of an extra entry point because it's short, right? There are a couple sentences, 3 sentences, and one of them is a quote. So you only got to write 2. So it's not, the writing part is not that hard. But like Mike was saying, it does take some work to get that information to make those 2 or 3 sentences really come to life and be interesting to read.
The first book I had critiqued back in the 90s, H.L. Hall, happy anniversary, H.L. Hall.
62.
62 anniversary. That's amazing. He critiqued my book. I had 27 we had funds in it. I will never forget that. I will never forget. He circled, we had fun. We worked hard. We had 27 we had funds in that. That is not a quote for a caption. And he led me to believe that we could do it right. So you need to take your critiques with a grain of salt, take it and let it rub into the wounds, let it hurt a little bit, and then work at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to jump on something Mike said a little bit earlier about going out and getting the information that you need for these captions. You know, people talk, one of the things that bothers me is people like they want to say, we don't do a journalistic yearbook. But you know, if you go out there and you talk to people about what's in those photos, you are a journalist. So we want everybody to consider their yearbook a journalistic yearbook because you're doing reporting, taking great photos, giving them context, getting quotes about them. You're going to be great reporters when you do this.
Right. It's the journalism side and it's the history side of a yearbook too. It's the storytelling history side. And so captions are a little piece that do all of that stuff for our books. So what are some things, I know, Mike, this is kind of what you were getting at with the going places and gathering information. Like we need good information in order to write a good caption. So what are some tips of things that people need to think about, like what information they need to get, how do they get it in order to really write a great caption? Because you ain't going to do it sitting on your BU
Order
double T.
the reporter's notebooks from us. Get the reporter's notebooks from us.
Mhm.
Put them in every camera bag and with a pen. A pen that writes, it has ink in it. And then have the photographers gather some of the information. They need to gather the rosters from the games, which include the other team. So we need the rosters, we need their numbers, we need the players' names. And then we need the dates of the games. What game play is? What's tonight's game?
Well, and let me interrupt for a minute, Mike. What you said was so right on. Mm-hmm. Can we get the photographers to be a part of gathering the information? It was my goal. It was my goal for my whole career. How many years, Mike? 70, 80, 90. Anyway, I wanted my photographers to be a part of that information gathering, make them be journalists in the written word as well as the photography. So get your photographers involved, and be sure that you have your dating process, your calendars and things, the time stamping stuff set up well in your cameras. So your cameras will tell you in the metadata exactly when that photo was taken. But get the photographers involved. I challenge all you photographers watching out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the biggest game changer, because we got a critique one time when I was advising that dinged us on how like vague our captions were. Like we would say like, so and so is like running the ball down the field against the opposing team instead of against Gulf High School, or against the other team, or what those players' numbers are, like Mike said, or the dates. Like that's all information. And what that stuff, that kind of weak reporting, which is really what it was, comes from looking at a photo on the spread, then trying to go gather all that information afterwards, instead of having your photographers gather that information when they're at the event. And I know we're kind of harping on sports photography here, but that goes for everything. Like if they're taking some pictures, I mean, even professional photographers, those of you athletes that are out there, that if there's people from the local paper that are there covering the game, those people take photographs and they go up and talk to those players when the game's done, right then and there. They don't call them a month later to ask them about what was going on. The other part of that that's important too is getting quotes, because part of a good caption, and we are going to have a how-to video that pairs with this podcast about really how to write a great caption, but one of the parts of a caption is a direct quote. You want something in there that's going to bring the emotion and the color and all those things that we can't say because we can't editorialize in our writing. It's going to bring opinion. It's going to bring all of that stuff in the direct quote. If we go back to people 3 months after that photo was taken and try to get a quote, it's going to be a flat quote. It's going to lack that emotion and that feeling. And that's what we need the quote for. So having those photographers trained to do that really helps get all of that good information, including that emotion in your quote right then and there.
Yeah, and you want to try to write your captions as close to the time that the picture was taken as humanly possible. One thing that we would do on my staff is we would have the head photographer print out the best photos of the day, of the week, and then we would try to caption them on the back. We do them on a full 8.5 by 11 page, and then we would at least gather all the pertinent information and write it on the back, and then put it in a folder where we would have dated football photos, for example, in the fall. So we would write those captions when it happened in August, and not wait till the December deadline when we're trying to ask a freshman football player what was in his mind at that particular moment, because it's just not going to be good information. They're going to make something up. It's not going to be true. You want to get that information as soon as possible. So that's really important, is that you employ your photographers and then try to write your best captions for the photos you're going to use as soon as possible. And that means you got to go over your photos as soon as they come in. And this is really hard sometimes. You've got to pick your best ones and write the captions right now. That's going to make all the difference in the world.
Yep, I totally agree. I was going to say, some other things to think about here would be your workflow in your classroom. If you really want to write great captions, and if you're on the train of trying to win awards, caption writing is a big part of that. Like we said, that you might need to look at how you guys do your workflow in your classroom. When pictures come in, do they sit on the camera for 2 weeks before they get uploaded? No, we've got to upload them right away. And like Jim said, sieve out all the ones that you're not going to use, and then look at the ones that you are usable, and then make sure that your photographer gathered information.
Right.
This means everybody's a reporter. So I think sometimes we get in the mindset of writers write captions, right? So like, the photographer shouldn't have to worry about any of this. They're just out there photographing. But all of this is journalism. All of it is storytelling. So our photographers might not be the ones necessarily sitting down to write that caption, but they should be the ones out there gathering the information for that caption to be written. And then hopefully they might be the ones writing those captions too.
They should be sitting there with the writers, giving that background, colorful, blood, sweat, and tears information, because we don't know what was going on when that kid was tumbling across the goal line. He might have tripped over his shoelaces. We need to know that. We need the writers need to know.
Right. And part of, like, when we're thinking about the different parts of a caption, like that first part is telling us what happened in the photo, right? And that second part is that fun fact that we just might not know from looking at the photo. It's additional detail. It's something else the reader wouldn't know just from looking at that photo. A lot of times that information and then the quote also require the person that was there watching it happen to be the one that provides that information, not somebody that wasn't even at the event that's sitting behind a computer and trying to write all this information out later. So it's really, to capture the moment and the feeling, you gotta have all those parties involved contributing.
Your writers and your photographers need to be collaborative on writing these captions. That's really, really important.
And your designers probably too, because they're the ones that are probably choosing what photos are actually going to end up on that spread. And so that's why all of this is a team effort. Caption writing isn't just a writer's job. No. It's everyone's job to be a part of that process.
And you mentioned the word party, and I always say the caption starts with the birthday party invitation, the who, the what, the when, the where, the why. It does. Who's throwing the party? Who's in the picture? What's going on? When did this happen? Where were we? Why is that kid crying instead of smiling?
Right. Right.
Yes.
But I just refer it right back to the what are those little birthday party things with the pink hats and all the
that's
the pigs.
Party favors. Yes.
Yeah. That's such a good. I've never heard that before. I love that, the birthday party invitation. That's a great way to put that first sentence. You gotta have the
who, what, when, where, why, and how.
So true.
Now, I think it's a good time to start talking about the letters, the little acronym that we put in to remember this. We start with the A. And what's the A, Sabrina, of our captions?
Attention getter. It's the attention getter. It's just like a little headline for your caption. The same rules that we use to write great headlines are the same rules that you would use to write a great attention getter. I got to tell you one that I always refer back to. This was probably 12 years ago, 13 years ago, but I remember there was a picture of a girl swimming underwater with seals. It was like some vacation spread or something like that. And I was just proofing the spread, and the attention getter said AR, comma, AR, comma, AR. And I was like, man, Jake didn't write the attention getter. Why is there like filler text or whatever in here? And I was like, what is R, R, R? And I went, oh my God. I was like, that made me laugh so hard. I left it in there because I thought it was great. It's just those things that grab and hook you in and make you look at that caption. I thought it was hilarious.
I want to go back to Mike's metaphor here. We just had a party at my house and we made an Evite, and you look through all these hundreds of Evites to find one that looks cool. So you want people to read it. So that attention getter is like that cool photo on the front of the party invitation. So they're going to know, oh, this goes to this photo, and I want to read the caption. And then you get into the party invitation, which what letter goes along with the party invitation?
B for basic info. Basic info. It's just it's Mike's birthday party invitations. The who, what, when, where, why. Yep. Give us all those details in one sentence. Okay. So that can get a little tricky. You're trying to cram all that information in one sentence, but that's the important part because it's telling us what happened in the photo. Like, just tell me what happened. And it's one of the only places where we use present tense in in yearbook writing and journalistic writing. Yes.
That's right. That's right. And then we go to the C, which is the complimentary part of the invitation, where you're going to ask more information that's important, background information. It's not fluff information. It's not just to make your advisor think you did something. It's not just worthless. It really has important meaning to the background of what happened. So that complimentary information is really important if you go and dig and gather interesting stuff.
To me, this is the last two parts of the caption is where the magic happens, because that's where the emotion and the surprise and the feeling is. That C information, if it's, if there's a soccer picture and we get the who, what, when, where, why, and how of that kid, running with the ball down the field, and that C part, that complimentary information says something like, so-and-so loves playing soccer, has played for 2 years. Like, that does, great. I guess it does the job, but it doesn't give me anything interesting, So that's where what we've been talking about with going to gather that information and really talk to people and find detail and something surprising. That's where that can really make that caption go from being okay to being great, to being really great.
And then we have one more. We have the D for the direct quote. But what I've got to say, I've got to be honest with you about this direct quote stuff. They've got to be good.
Yes.
And they have to be true. This is one of those things where, as a journalist, you're going to kind of take the journalist pledge that says everything that's in this book is exactly as I heard it, because you don't want meaningless quotes.
That's right. And if somebody says, make something up for me, that does not fly either. No, I've heard that happen too. That is not okay. Okay, just get the quote. And I will say we can talk about this too. Like, there are some people that don't have the direct quote as part of their caption, not always. Like, sometimes you'll see just the D or just the C, and that's something we can talk about too.
Yes.
But I personally, if you can fit a quote in there, fit it in there, because that's where the emotion and the feeling comes in. That's the important part of the storytelling that people really want to see. They want to hear from the person in the photo, not necessarily us, as the yearbook staffer.
And when you acquire that quote, it gets you out of your seat, out talking to people, because you can't write a caption from the seat in your yearbook room. You've got to get up and get out there and interview and talk and find out and discover all the amazing things that go along with that photo. And this is another point. I believe that great photos are easy to caption. Photos that have nothing going on are the ones that are impossible to do. So the better the photography, the better. And I want to add one more thing. Captions are something you have to keep practicing all year long. The formula is relatively easy, but you have to check up on it. And I would say this really strongly. Have a caption editor on your staff. Someone who their job is to double check every single caption and have the authority to go back and say, Sabrina, this is not good enough. I know you were a little busy. You did it at the last minute. Could you go out and get us some more information? So somebody who's going to be the gatekeeper of good captions.
Yes,
Please.
don't throw it away. I love that you said that, Mike or Jim. I think that was such a great point about if your photos are poor, your caption quality will be poor. That's so true. But also, Jim's absolutely right. It takes practice, just like anything else we do. It just takes some time. And I've seen that where we think it's so easy because there's such a formula for it that we think, oh, we all got this. And then when you go to do it, it sometimes is a little trickier than you might think. So part of that might be going back and reading captions in other books that are well done to really get a feel for how they structure them, what information they're including, how they start those sentences, how they vary the starts to those sentences so that way it doesn't get repetitive on a page. So really study good caption writing, and that will help you become a better caption writer. And these are a great easy way to take your book to that next level.
So let's recap. We're going to start with even better photos because better photos are easier to caption. We are going to get the photographers involved. It's going to be a new standard in your yearbook room. It's collaborative between the writers, the designers, and the photographers about how to write the good captions. We're going to practice. We are going to have a caption editor that's going to check up on quality. And then we're going to remember it's about reporting. We're going to have an attention getter, the A. We're going to get good basic information by, again, going out and reporting. We're going to add incredibly important and significant complementary information. And then we're going to have a beautiful direct quote. Yes. And I would love it in the yearbook room if when you're talking about this, somebody would come in and go, you're not going to believe this quote I got about this picture. This is what they said. And isn't that amazing how interesting that is? So you should share those kind of things as well.
Yes. I was going to say, challenge yourselves to go back through last year's yearbook now and look at your captions.
Yeah.
Really dig through and see, did we do this? Did we not do this? Were there maybe places where we were more successful at it than others? Really evaluate where you stand. Maybe you guys were really good at getting basic info, but that complimentary info wasn't so good. Or our attention getters maybe were a little boring. Find ways of things you really want to focus on to get better at in caption writing and set those as goals for your yearbook staff. And then as y'all are working throughout the year, share this stuff out on social media. Other yearbook staffs are struggling with all the same stuff that you are. So say like, hey, this really helped us. Like we restructured our workflow and our staff to make sure that our photographers are getting that information and they're sharing it with the writers and the designers. And it's really become a team effort. Share what's working for you and even maybe what's not, so that you can get feedback from other people. We're all in this together. We're all just trying to make better books. So we're all here to help each other out.
And we'd love to see this be a goal for 2025. Number one, we're going to improve our captions because as I'm sitting here in my office with 85,000 yearbooks on the floor, I can look at almost all of them and say to them, your captions could be improved wherever you are. So get out there, set the goal of improving your captions.
Yes. Well, thank you guys so much for being here today. We're glad you could join us at That Yearbook podcast with those yearbook people today to talk about caption writing. Remember that we do have a how-to video that is going to partner with this. So we're going to go into more detail about really how to write that ABCD portion of your caption. So be ready for that too. Put that into practice in your classrooms. And we're excited to see what you guys come up with this year, and really put your heart and soul into making great storytelling happen in your captions.
Thank you for tuning in to That Yearbook podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on your preferred platform. Happy yearbooking!